Hello, everybody. Today I want to go over a game from the tournament that just took place a few days ago. Um, and this game is between GM Ernesto Inarkiev with the white pieces and uh, Hou Yifan um, with the black pieces. Let's get right into it. I know the game is a few days old, but I wanted to. It was very interesting to me, and I was just analyzing uh, the game a few days ago, and then I realized that I had not shared my thoughts about it. Um, so anyway, this game started out is you know Italian game, and all of this has been seen before. A6, rook E1. And basically, again, just to rehash things that have been said before, White's aim is just simply to play D4, establish this two-pawn center, and Black wants to, with moves like A6, give his bishop, a spot to hide out if he needs to. In case of D4, this also helps prevent any kind of queenside pawn expansion if White decides to go there, because some lines White doesn't always push for D4. Sometimes he'll use this C3 pawn as a lever to play B4 and B5 or what have you. These are some ancient lines, um, and their popularity has risen because of the lack of success that White has been having in the Rui Lopez. I mean, the Berlin defense has really, uh, put uh, a lot of water on the fire, so to speak, when it comes to playing E4. I would say the Berlin defense, Petrov, right, and then just the those I'll say those two. When it comes to E4, E5, those two openings are really really doing good for black. And so white players have been or players with the white pieces, don't want to get that misconstrued. Players with the white pieces have been looking for alternatives, so you've been seeing resurrection of some of these ancient openings, and the Italian game has been very popular for the last few years. Okay, knight g4, and after knight g4, we see this attack here on the f2 pawn, and there's not many games in the database here, but normally white many draws occur after, say, rook f1, then the knight goes back, rook e1, knight comes back. Um, to avoid that, if you're white, sometimes you don't want to have the simple draw, rook e2. And sometimes you get the same sequence of moves, this repetition. High fan plays king h8 with the obvious idea of liberating the f pawn to be pushed, f5, and now after h3, white weakens the king side somewhat, right, with h3, obviously with the idea of asking the knight to commit. What are you going to do? You can't have the piece just hanging out in your territory, so the knight either has to go back or commit to capturing here. The Chinese grandmaster plays f5 and is willing to part with the piece for an attack on the king side. And there's some merit to it, because if you look at white's queen side development, the bishop is here on c1, the rook is out of play on a1. These knights kind of, are a little bit redundant, blocking each other. And this bishop is the best piece that white has, but it's really swinging that air here as the king has moved off the diagonal. And so it's not really that effective. So the idea is, if that for the price of the piece, combined with the weakened king side that white has, that perhaps black will be fast enough, right, to have to be able to checkmate white or gain considerable concessions for the piece before um, white can develop. And and let me even draw back that comment a little bit, because he's not really just down a piece. He's giving up the exchange. So normally the two pieces will be worth more than the rook, but here with these other factors in play, uh, the lack of development that white has, the weakened queen side, um, and open lines that black gets as a result, uh, seem to definitely give black compensation here. And I'm sure Hou Yifan has, prepared this in her studies. So e takes f5 is played here. And now if h takes g4, right, just taking the piece, just straight up, f takes g4, knight h2, g3, exploiting the pin on f2. And this just gives you an idea of what would have happened, or what could have happened if white just took the piece. And we just see this constant pressure on the white position here. And so white is up the white has the two minor pieces for the exchange here, and it's definitely an imbalanced position. Black has two extra pawns, but now his development is kind of suspect, and his king is exposed in this variation. All right. So some people will probably like white here because of these two bishops, and it seems a little bit easier to um, get back into the game. Where some people would prefer black here because of the two extra pawns, and once he gets his bishop and rook out, he should be just fine here. But instead of h takes g4, accepting the piece right away, e takes f5 was played. And now knight takes f2 from black, rook takes f2, bishop takes f2, check, king takes f2. And now bishop takes f5. So black gains a pawn for the exchange. Queen e2, and now d5. And I think this is what black was aiming at by playing that exchange sack, is that not only getting the extra pawn, but having a dominating position in the center. This is very important. So white has to find a way to neutralize these d and e pawns by attacking them. And also white has to deal with the problem of developing the queen side, and also the issue of king safety, where it seems for black's pieces are easy to play. Black side, for instance, putting the queen, say like d6 or e7 for that matter, and then moving the rook on the a file over to the e or f files, doubling up on the f file. And white on the other hand has more of a uphill grind, but the major thing is that those two central pawns that are united. So the issue of king safety and queen side development is what black has to deal with in getting his pieces coordinated. If he can get his pieces coordinated, then he can perhaps take an advantage here. So this is the question. King g1, queen d6. Obviously, with the even though this pawn is on prise, with this king here on f2 and rook here on f8, you don't really want to take this piece right now. You're asking for trouble after bishop takes d3, and that's discovered check because of this rook right here. So first, king g1. Now, white is threatening to take this pawn here, so queen d6, protecting the pawn, and then also preparing to bring this guy over. Bishop c2, and bishop c2 is preparing the b pawn to be moved so that this bishop can get in the game, because right now it's like what are you going to do with these queenside pieces? So another idea would try to be maybe, you know, knight here and here somehow, but Inarkiev decides to move the bishop here, and with the idea of playing b4 and bishop b2 to solve that problem. So rook f7, there's b4, and now a5 happens. He plays bishop b2. Now I thought here b5 is interesting. Just trying to undermine the support of this center a little bit. The main idea is, of course, if you know a move like knight a7, then you just simply take this pawn, and then you'll be doing all right as white. But instead of doing that, queen c5, check, and king h2, and you have this right here, and this gets really sharp. Now you're attacking this rook. So Inarkiev plays the bishop to b2 first, but that's, you know, that costs time. So this move now can be prevented by just simply a takes b4, and now c takes b4, and now Chinese grandmaster plays knight takes b4, which attacks this bishop right here. And again, the game is super sharp because we see this pawn now is not adequately supported. The bishop is attacking the queen and knight. Another alternative was, of course, queen takes b4, and this bishop is attacked here. So bishop b3, putting a lot of pressure here. Pressure is here, and this is protected. Rook e7, protecting the e pawn. Queen e3, and d4. Queen e2, queen b5. Pressure right here on the d3 pawn. Knight c4, queen c5, rook d1, e4, d takes d3. That's a discovered check, by the way. Queen e3 is forced, and then after knight takes e3, then bishop takes e4, and the game is I like black a little bit better here, but the game is definitely is not exactly clear. But instead of queen takes b4, knight takes b4, and now Inarkiev plays knight takes e5 with the idea of forking the king and queen. So rook e7, pinning the knight, knight df3, king g8, and now queen d2, just getting out of the pin there. Knight takes c2, queen takes c2, and now c5. So this is a very important part in the game. Inarkiev have done a great job of getting out of that bind, you know, that he was in earlier on the queen side, not being able to develop his pieces properly, and now he has his pieces beautifully posted, and he's addressed the situation in the center real good. Remember, the D and E pawns were united and very strong. Now he's taking over e5 as the knights in the best position they possibly can be in. And the black player, for her credit, is put another pawn in the center with c5, making the d4 square not accessible to white, or e4 for that matter. But e5 is really really sticking out here as the dominance that white has there. So now white plays queen b3. And of course, there's a x-ray through this pawn, so she moves to king h7. And now this is a very important point of the game. To me, this is the most important part of the game. Is Inarkiev here played king h1, and after d4, white loses all of his coordination in the center, all of the gains that he had just previously made. With this one move, d4, which was prepared by c5, with this move d4, this bishop is shut out, which was just a shining piece, just one move ago. This bishop is shut out on the diagonal now, right? No prospects, and now these knights are no longer supported because they had the bishop as their support, but now that's been cut off, and now the rook is just threatening to snap the knights off. Okay, so basically the gains that Inarkiev had made had all been lost with that one move. So instead of king h1, his move, the proper move, was d4 here. If c takes d4, bishop takes d4, and things remain the same, except that now black has an isolated pawn. So c4, queen c3, and white is okay here. He's not winning or or losing or anything like that, but this is what he would like to maintain. It's really difficult for those knights to be removed. It's real hard to get the knight off e5 without sacrificing the exchange here. All right, I don't think white has anything substantial to worry about here. If anything, it's the queen side pawns, the pawn on the c file and b file, and the possibility of creating a passer. That would be black's only worry. For instance, b5, a3, b4. So definitely d4 is the key move there. White could also play g4, but it has the same idea of playing d4. g4 just gains the tempo, knocks the bishop back. I don't even think that's really necessary. And then d4 with the same analogous continuations. But instead of throwing g4 and then weakening the king side, just d4 right away is correct. So now you can see the difference after king h1 is black who plays d4. Inarkiev wants to fix this bishop, so he plays bishop c1, and now notice he's back at square one again. Remember the uncoordinated nature of the pieces on the queen side. Look at the bishop right back at home. It's like the kid who left home too early and now has to come back and live with his parents. That's what happened. The bishop said, "I'm out of here. I don't want to live here anymore," and went to b2, and things didn't go right, and now he's back home. And this rook is here, blocked, right? Instead of bishop c1, right, making this compounding matters worse, rook e1, at least getting that rook out, is a little bit better. Rook e8, of course, and bishop a3. That's a good diagonal. That rook takes, knight takes. Black gives up the exchange. And now you got queen b6 with this double attack here. Again, this is just a sample line. And here, black is better here, right? Black has an extra pawn, but you gotta watch those opposite colored bishops. Okay, and this gives white some type of drawing chances, but with the queens on, it's very, very dangerous. If one, black can spark up an attack. But instead of rook e1, he just played bishop c1 and then rook takes. And here was the idea. It was based on a miscalculation, because he saw that the exchange was going to happen, and he figured with the rook and queen lined up, he'll play bishop takes f4. Now, of course, the main idea is just to be able to, play knight takes e5, queen takes e5, queen takes b7, and go off into the, figuring this guy's, pinned, and they'll just, capture, say after rook here, he'll just capture twice, and everything will be okay. But the Chinese Grandmaster has a good surprise waiting. It just simply plays queen d5, and this is all based on the fact that this rook is unprotected. Okay, so the idea now is just simply, if knight takes e5, then queen takes b3, and then black is just winning. Okay, of course, that's what white will love. But after queen d5, he has to do rook b1. So that extra tempo gives Hou Yifan a chance to transition right into the ending, save the rook, and then the game is pretty much over for all intents and purposes. And Inarkiev had to resign after rook d8. So that's my take on that game. Real enterprising play and good preparation by Hou Yifan. And miscalculation at the end of a well-played game. Like I said, two moves really. It's king h1, right, on move 26, right, instead of d4. And the other move after d4. So it was like two errors in a row. Then this miscalculation right here is depending on bishop f4 to save the day, and queen d5. So two mistakes by Inarkiev and two great responses with d4 and queen d5 by Hou Yifan. So she's doing real good. I mean, she's on her way. I'm happy that she's playing in men's tournaments, and just not settling. Like, she's just playing, playing chess with everybody. Not just just collecting, small paychecks in the women's, on the women's side of things. I mean, because she could do that all day. She's the strongest women player by far, and she could just go to the women's tournaments and just collect, the paycheck. But she's playing in the, these top elite tournaments, and she's bringing it to these GMs. I mean, Inarkiev is a good GM. It's not like he's, 70 years old, and then she's just taking advantage. Like, he's a GM in his prime, good quality GM, and then she beat him with the black pieces, which, was hard to do. Beat these guys with the black pieces as it is, and she kind of beat him up too in this game. The game was only, 34 moves, so I mean, that's close to a miniature with the black pieces, and she beat him in a dynamic style with the knight, the exchange sack on f2, and looked like one of those old 1800 games, from back in the days. So I appreciated that game and just wanted to share, my thoughts on it. So see you guys on the next video.